I worked at Channel 9, I had many happy years at Channel 7. We used to do a show called League Teams. There was Bob Davis, Jack Dyer and myself. The show became an institution. We had the Melbourne University League Teams Association, Monash had one, and so did La Trobe. And these boys used to come and see our show sometimes. Well, after 10 years, incidentally, we spoke nothing about football on the show. We gave recipes, we cracked gags, you know, gags like why do Catholics have bigger balls than Protestants, and because they sell more tickets, all corny gags like that. Well, the show, as I said before, was a success. Casey decided, who was our general manager, decided he'd give us a night at the Southern Cross. We go to the Southern Cross, had about 8 or 10 bottles of claret and numerous beers, and after we'd had that, we decided to go home. It was about 1:30, and we came out to the front of the Southern Cross, and we were staggering a bit, and a copper came up, and he said, "Hey, you boys have been drinking, you're pretty boozed." And I said, "No, we're not." He said, "What's your name?" And I wasn't going to give him a right name because I knew if I gave him a right name and we were booked, I'd finish up on the front page of the Truth. So I looked across the road and I saw a shop front. And he said, "What's your name?" And I said, "Coles." He said, "What's your initial?" I said, "GJ." He wrote that down. He was an Irishman, you see. Bob Davis now twigged very quickly because he was a used car salesman. Very shifty, Bob. He was that crooked he'd go to sleep in a trumpet. As a matter of fact, when he dies, they're going to screw him into the ground. And he said to Bob, he said, "What's your name?" And Bob said, looked across the road and he said, "David." He said, "No, what's your surname?" He said, "That is my surname." He said, "What's your Christian name?" And Bob said, "Roger." And he wrote that down. Now, Jack could hardly stand up and leaning against the window, staggering it all over the place. And the copper said to him, he said, "Hey, big fella, you've had a lot to drink." And Jack said, "I beg your pardon, I haven't had a drink." He said, "Well, what's your name?" And Jack said, "Would you believe the Victorian branch of the Permanent Building Society?"
Jack and I spent 25 years taking the mickey out of each other on Channel 7's infamous World of Sport. But Jack's media commitments didn't end there. Each week, his eloquent style of calling could be heard on 3KZ. His contribution to the game even getting him a Guernsey in the Queen's honours.
Jack, congratulations. If ever a man deserved a gong, you did.
Are you serious about that?
I'm serious, Jack. I think it's fantastic.
Are you sure now?
Yeah.
You sure?
Richmond, you have made the club Richmond, not their flags, but you, Jack, have made the name Richmond infamous.
You know what? The only reason I'm talking to you is because you wrote that article this morning.
It was a nice article.
It was the best you've ever written.
Thank you, Jack. God bless you.
Jack's stint behind the microphone lasted until the station decided to dump its coverage. Now, I've spent a near lifetime telling yarns about the great Tiger, but I'll tell you what, I've managed to crop up in a few of his stories over the years, like this one involving the two of us and former radio legend Norman Banks.
Banks took us up to the university to give a lecture, you know, and I said to Lou, I said, "Don't say anything with God here." I said, "You just speak when you're spoken to." You know what Lou's like. he always wants to bob in. Well, he bobbed in, you know, and it was packed, the house. And Banks said, "You little sawnall thing," he said, "you speak when you're spoken to." He said, Lou, he said, I should have listened to you." In front of about 1,000 people, he said. He never did it again because Banks was the man. You didn't interrupt him at all. So Lou shut up after that and spoke when he was spoken to. That's hard to do.
Oh, Jack Dyer, what a beauty. Poor old Jack, he's a bit worried the other day. You know, it's got him tossed how people die in alphabetical order. He can't work that one out. And he said, "Jim Cleary's gone, Dyer's next to mine, D's next to mine, next to go."
Another colleague from the World of Sport days was Neil Roberts, St Kilda's 1958 Brownlow medalist.
And now Roberts has gone back to full-back and he kicks
Roberts
off.
was a champion footballer, one of the greats. He also happens to be one of football's great storytellers.